Welcome to the Workings of Karma lecture series. This is based on the book by the same name. The program structure is as follows. First, we start off with meditation. This is followed by the lecture. We have a questions and answers session scheduled after the lecture. After the questions and answers session, we conclude the program. For the questions and answers session, please post your questions in the Facebook and YouTube chat or comment section in the live video. This program continues on every Wednesday at the same time, that is, 2 p.m. Coordinated Universal Time or Greenwich Mean Time. This translates to 7:30 p.m. Sri Lanka and India time. Please note and convert this time to your local time and join us every week for this enlightening Dharma Talks series by a very erudite monk. Today's lecturer has a bachelor's degree in Buddhist philosophy and religious studies from the Buddhist and Pali University of Sri Lanka. Also, the Venerable has studied under guidance of notable teachers for 5 years. Now we invite the Most Venerable Teacher to start the meditation session, followed by the Dharma talk and questions and answers session. The meditation session will start now. This will be followed by the lecture.
All right, so we will make sure that our eyes are open, but we will keep the sight cast down on the floor right in front of us. About 1 foot or 2 feet in front of us is enough. If your sight moves somewhere else, then you need to take it and put it back. You can blink as much as you want, but we don't close our eyes to avoid falling asleep unknowingly and to avoid imaginations which are not related to our meditation practice. So we keep our eyes nicely open, but a little bit, maybe a half or a third, or whatever is less than half. But you still see very clearly the floor or whatever is there right in front of you. We will make a determination so we are very clear about what's going on in our meditation. Some people, when they meditate, they have exactly this problem. What am I going to meditate on? How am I going to use my mind? Am I going to meditate on breath or on mind or something else? And then the time is up and they didn't do anything. That's not okay. You need to know what you're going to do. Otherwise, suppose that you are going to help someone carry something and instead you punch them. It's probably not right, right? We need to know what are we going to do. So we need to make the determination. It's not famous, but it's mentioned in our scriptures. If you want to meditate, be it concentration, practice, although at the higher level though, or when you want to attain, when you want to enter, not attain, when you want to enter Nibbana, enter is the word used in our scriptures. Some of you may hate it. We don't have to. It's just the way it's said. So enter Nibbana, and for that you need determination. So we train ourselves in determination already from the beginning. And every single meditation session, be it in sitting or walking, is worthy of determination. So we determine 3 things. We determine the time, the posture, and the method, so that as we are sitting, we know what we are doing. Okay, so let's start right away. From now on, for 10 minutes, I will meditate on muscles and radiate loving kindness without any movement. From now on, for 10 minutes, I will meditate on muscles and radiate loving kindness without any movement. From now on, for 10 minutes, I will meditate on muscles and radiate loving kindness without any movement. And with that determination, we can gently, lovingly notice there's a flat piece of sinew at the top of the head. We allow it to be heavy. And changing. So heaviness is the element of earth, and the Buddha has taught muscles and sinews as element of earth. And change is the characteristic of impermanence, the ultimate basis of all insight practice. So we consider heaviness and change in the flat piece of flesh at the top of the head. We don't force it, we don't help it. If you don't feel it, even better. If you don't feel it, that's the way to be, or that's the way to do it. And we continue to the forehead, and again we just allow that muscle in the forehead to have its weight and to change as the time goes on. If you don't feel it, you don't see it, it's good. That's the way to do it. If you feel it, see it, you have some advantage, but that's only for muscles. If you later practice, for example, with bile or sweat or pus, well, then you'll have problems. Those who cannot feel it, they have advantage already from upstart. And we continue considering heaviness and change in the muscles and sinews in the body, to the eyes, nose, lips, chin, cheeks, ears, back of the head. We allow all of the muscles and sinews throughout the head to be heavy and changing. We continue to the neck, shoulders, arms, elbows, forearms, wrists, palms, fingers, tips of fingers, chest, abdomen, back, We allow all of the muscles and flesh throughout the upper part of the body to be heavy and changing. We continue to the buttocks, thighs, knees, calves, ears, soles, toes, tips of toes, we allow all of the muscles and sinews throughout the body to be heavy and changing. And as we allow the body to be the way it is, as we give it the freedom to be the way it is, we ourselves achieve freedom from worry about the body. Let's enjoy this freedom. Let's watch this peace. Now let's share our peace with other living beings. In our minds, voicelessly, we just allow, permit. We don't force, we don't expect. No need. Just allow. May all beings, including me, be in peace. May all beings, including me, be in peace. Now, because the time for this sitting is finished, let's make the last determination in our minds voicelessly. From now on, I will always be calm. From now on, I will always be calm. From now on, I will always be calm. And with that determination, we can slowly, mindfully change the way of our sitting. And when we have changed the way of our sitting, let's watch our mind for one more minute and see what's going on in there. We're not going outside, just curious about how seeing, hearing, how bodily contact and thinking, how they work. Very well. So, last week we were talking about Dhamma, about rebirth, and we were following the book. So let's look at the book again.
Lecture will start now. A questions and answers session will be held after the lecture. Post your questions in the Facebook and YouTube chat or comments section.
Okay. So I'm getting it ready. So to review what we talked about yesterday we were reading only one page from the book The Workings of Kamma by 𝗀𝗶𝗸𝗲. We're following the second edition from 2018. And we were talking about how we have been traveling throughout the different lives and worlds in the past. And we are talking about how ignorance and craving are responsible for this traveling through the different existences, through birth, old age, illness, and death. We also briefly mentioned what is a clog, because we are now following the Clog-Bound Sutta. So what is it actually? So clog-bound is not as simple as it may seem. You may think, well, if you know English, you understand everything. Not in Buddhism. In Buddhism, if you know English, you usually understand nothing in the beginning. So there's a lot to learn and a lot to explain. and one of them is a clog. And clog is a block of wood that's attached to a dog's neck. And this piece of wood basically knocks the legs as the dog is running. So the dog doesn't run. If you don't want a dog to run, then that's what you would do in Myanmar, apparently also in the Buddha's time. And so we are going to talk about this clog a little bit later, maybe today, maybe another time. And we also mentioned here something about volitional formations. So while each volitional formation arises and perishes, its inherent kammic potency remains in that same mentality, materiality, continuity. So we are talking about the problem that neither this book nor any other sayadaw that I'm aware of explains how does the kammic potency remain, look at that, remain, R-E-M-A-I-N. That's a very interesting word, remain, in the same mentality, materiality, continuity. I worry that there is some frivolous interpretation. But anyway, nobody's providing reference here. We will learn. I will repeat probably many times that whenever you read 𝗀𝗶𝗸𝗲's books, you need to be very careful, because monks like 𝗀𝗶𝗸𝗲, who know many references, they like to provide references to what they say, but sometimes they do not have a reference to what they say, and they are simply silent. They do not provide any reference. And this is one of those cases when sayadaw provides his idea and no reference at all. Okay, so then, amongst the ultimately non-existent paramatthato avidyamanesu, amongst women, men, it, the ignorance, hurries on. Amongst the existent vidyamanesu, however, amongst the aggregates, etc., it doesn't hurry on. So we are here talking about the difference between the ultimate reality and the conceptual reality. Oftentimes people are wondering, how do you do it? So wait, so either there is no me, so then I can kill and steal and it's everything fine, because hey, wait, there is no me, right? So how could you punish this me if there is no me? And on the other hand, there is this feeling like maybe there is something like me and I need to do good things and I should not do bad things. So how do you reconcile these two things, especially considering the fact that in Buddhism, both of them are stressed? Well, you reconcile it by the fact that there are two levels of reality. So in one level, there is the ultimate reality arising passing moments. And then there is another level where we are, where is a monk, where is a layperson, where the layperson is listening to what the monk says, and then they go to have something to eat, they sleep, they breathe, and so on. So we need to consider the ultimate reality and also the conventional reality, and we need to work with them appropriately. So we work with the reality as ultimate when it's appropriate to work with it as ultimate, and we of course work with it as conceptual when it's appropriate to work with it as conceptual. Who knows when it's appropriate as ultimate or conceptual? Not me. Sometimes it's pretty hard to decide whether you will deal with your problem ultimately or conceptually. But that's probably the domain of arahants. So at this moment, my understanding is that the arahants know when to deal with reality as ultimate and when to deal with it as conceptual. I'm not an arahant, so unfortunately, I don't know. Okay, so ignorance sees only conventional truth, women and men. You see, it's no problem to see conventional truth. Problem is with this word, O-N-L-Y. If you see only conventional world, well, then that's a problem. And actually, what's not written here, actually, what's another problem, and in Myanmar, this is very stressed among the great masters, is to see only the ultimate truth. Because if you see only the ultimate truth, there's no space for loving kindness. And there's also no space for making merits. Even an arahant does good things. They're not merits, but they're good things. They're good things by the fact that he has the nature of being an arahant. So we need to see both conventional and the ultimate. It is wrong to see in this way because these things do not exist according to reality. Things that do exist according to reality, however, are the aggregates, elements, basis, mentality, materiality, dependent origination, workings of karma, and 3 characteristics, and actually many more. So, ultimate truth is what needs to be seen by wisdom. Ignorance doesn't see them. And when ignorance doesn't see them, well, then what it does greed, hatred, ignorance. And then what does it do? Birth, old age, illness, and death. So in apparently Dhammadharani, what is the ignorance taint? Okay, so let's look at it more deeply. Non-knowledge of suffering's origin, of suffering's cessation, of the path leading to suffering cessation. So actually the 4 Noble Truths. Not understanding the past, future, and the past and future. And this is, one of the biggest problems that we are dealing with in Myanmar with some teachers. So should you actually meditate on your past and future, or should you not meditate on your past and future? So this is a debate, it's a conflict. It's a conflict. It's not a serious conflict. Nobody's killing for that, but it's a conflict, It's a conflict because of which some people are confused, and it's then difficult. So what is this conflict? So the conflict is whether you should meditate on past and future, or whether you should not meditate on your past and future. So in 𝗷𝗶𝗸𝗲 Sutta of Majjhima Nikaya, the Buddha very clearly says, be in the present, because the past is gone, future is not come yet. And then those who want to meditate on past and future, because they understand dependent origination in their way, they say, well, actually, you need to consider birth, old age, illness, and death. And here, present moment is this life, because there are several kinds of present moment explained in commentaries. And the Buddha doesn't really say, what is the present moment in 𝗷𝗶𝗸𝗲 Sutta, so you can actually explain it any way you want. And so you do whatever you want. And then, of course, based on what you do, you will get your results. And I worry that these people who observe past and future as part of their meditation do not really attain any enlightenment. And their chief teacher does not attain enlightenment either, or that's what he said. So it's a problem. Observing past and future, why is it a problem? Well, because when you observe past, you do not have the 5 aggregates of the past at hand so that you can examine them. And when you observe future, again, you don't have them at hand, so you cannot examine them. So because you cannot examine them, well, then you're actually creating assumptions based on those past 5 aggregates and the future and the future 5 aggregates. So I personally believe that observing past and future in meditation is a blasphemy. It's not just me, it's also the great masters of Myanmar who have prohibited. Yeah, believe it or not, they have prohibited publishing books where it's suggested that you observe past and future as a meditation practice, we obviously need to work with past and future. See, if we do not work with past and future, then we would have to reject the Buddha, because the Buddha is a matter of the past. And if we do not work with past and future, we would have to reject enlightenment, because enlightenment is the matter of potential, not even sure, future. So we have to deal with past and future. It's just that we do not meditate on them when we practice vipassana or insight. When I say vipassana, I do not mean Goenka method. I mean the 22 methods mentioned in Satipatthana Sutta. In Goenka meditation retreats, you will learn only about 2 or 3 practices of Satipatthana Sutta. They are not vipassana. They are practices of vipassana. All right? So there are many other practices which are fully vipassana, taught by the Buddha himself. You cannot really say that they're wrong because the Buddha taught them. Because as soon as you say that the other practices are wrong, well, then we will have to say that potentially this practice, for example, Goenka's practice, is wrong either. We will have to say, okay, Goenka's practice can be right, and the other practices that were taught by the Buddha are potentially right too. So vipassana doesn't mean Goenka method. It means the 22 practices of Satipatthana Sutta. Okay, so vipassana practice doesn't accept past and future. You need to understand past and future through observing the present moment. So yes, no knowledge of past, and future, but not observing them. It is through observing the present moment that you get the knowledge, the understanding, the insight into the past and future. You understand that past is the condition for the present, and that the present is the condition for the future. All right, so non-knowledge of specifically cause-dependently originating thing. Yes, this is another trouble. So the idea that you must understand and meditate on dependent origination, and of course, dependent origination explains only past, present, and future. You cannot explain it in any other way, according to one great master. And therefore, you must watch past and future. But again, it's a problem, and it's wrong. So origin, cessation, and the path. Bygone 5 aggregates called the past, coming 5 aggregates called the future, and both specific causality. And dependently originating things called specifically cause-dependent originating things, it keeps concealed. Yes, ignorance keeps them concealed, but you do not uncover them through observing them. You uncover them through being smart. You know, sometimes you have to use different moves to achieve what you want than just those moves that are so obvious. So, in Ayatana Vibhanga base analysis, what do we learn there? The characteristics of impermanence does not appear owing to not keeping in mind, not penetrating rise and fall, owing to its being concealed by continuity santati. The characteristic of pain, dukkha, does not appear owing to not keeping in mind, not penetrating, continuous oppression, and owing to its being concealed by the postures, 𝗷𝗶𝗸𝗲. The characteristic of non-self does not appear, does not appear owing to not keeping in mind, not penetrating the resolution into various elements. Nana dhatu vinibhoga. So the idea, I don't know how I'm doing that. The idea here is that you observe the present moment to understand the continuity. You cannot really be stuck in the present moment so that you're only with that one present moment. That's not possible. You will be always observing the continuity through being in the present moment. And through that, you understand the past and the future and the present moment, together with all of their anicca, dukkha, anatta. Small particles, clusters of materiality, rupa kalapa, probably the most favorite object of meditation in Aukdoya. So Small particles, 𝗷𝗶𝗸𝗲𝗶, is something that the Buddha explained in Abhidhamma. But where do you have the explanation that you must see them in meditation and there is no way, no other way to become enlightened without seeing all of them? If we analyze those small particles, we see ultimate reality. You can definitely analyze whatever you want, but you need to follow the meditation technique taught by the Buddha. And observing 𝗷𝗶𝗸𝗲𝗶s through shattered crystal, believe it or not, through shattered crystal, the perception of crystal in the body is not explained in our scriptures, so it should be rejected. Then there is also mentality, which depends on materiality. So if we analyze those consciousness moments, we see ultimate mentality. Altogether, 81 types of consciousness and their associated mental factors. We are definitely not supposed to observe all of those things. There will come a time, bhikkhus, when the great ocean dries up, evaporates, and is no more. Okay, so this is actually a little different topic. So let's see how's the time and what can we do about it. So the remaining 8 supramundane types of consciousness, which all take Nibbana as object, are not included in mentality meditation. Yes, so 𝗹𝗶𝗸𝗲 backs off a little, explains that you are actually not supposed to see all of them. And it's also with the materiality and it's also with mentality. I know I'm very critical against 𝗹𝗶𝗸𝗲, but I'm not alone. And we need to respect the very old, very proven, and very widespread tradition of arahants and enlightened monks in Myanmar. And that tradition does not endorse in any way observing all 𝗷𝗶𝗸𝗲𝗶s, observing all 𝘀𝗂𝗓𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃. Not at all. So we should reject that kind of practice. The practice is definitely an interesting thing. You want to try whatever you want, but it's not a path towards enlightenment. A path towards enlightenment is explained in 𝗀𝗶𝗸𝗲 Sutta. So that needs to be followed. They are Clog-Bound world martial, and that's actually already the new topic. So let's see, how are we doing with the time? I see we have about 17 minutes for this meeting. I have mentioned quite a few maybe controversial points. We didn't do much. I know 1.5 pages. It's more than we did last week. But if you have any question, I think now is a better time, because when we move on to this new topic, it will be very conceptual. Now we were a little bit, tasting of the ultimate, but this next point is very conceptual, totally not related to any of your Vipassana practice. So I'd suggest that if you have any question about Vipassana practice, if you have anything you'd like to say, maybe now is the best time, because then we will move into these concepts and the nature of our meeting will change a lot.
Questions and answers session will start now. Post your questions in the Facebook and YouTube chat or comments section.
So if you have any question, you can write it down in the Facebook comment or YouTube comment. You will immediately see it. All right, seems like you're not having any questions. The problem of karma is more complicated. That's why 𝗹𝗶𝗸𝗲 had to write a big book about it. Now, what we have done is only a little peek into how vast is this problem. But at the same time, karma is coming with a warrant or with a disclaimer. You can't, or we can't understand it. Sorry. The Buddha explained there are 4 things we cannot understand. They're the world, Kamma, the Buddha, and jhanas. So if we cannot understand it, does it actually make any sense to talk about it? It definitely does. All right. It definitely does to make sense to talk about Kamma. However, we need to understand the limitations. As you can see, one of the fundamental problems with Kamma is where does the Kamma get stored in the continuity of the mind. In the past, short time after the Buddha passed away, there appeared a sect of monks known as 𝗷𝗂𝗯𝗀𝗃, also known as 𝗷𝗵𝗶𝗶𝗃. And they believed that there is some kind of self behind the 5 aggregates, which preserves the Kamma until the time when it is, when it brings the consequences. But this sect doesn't exist anymore. As you can see, they were not successful because the idea of some self behind or beyond the 5 aggregates is not supported by our scriptures. So we need to be very careful. And the idea that Kamma somehow jumps from moment to moment in some way so that it's preserved does not really, answer the question. Because if it jumps from moment to moment, well, then how does it jump from moment to moment? How does it stay between the one moment's cessation and the other moment's appearance? Where is it? How come that it stays there? You see? And we are having the same problem. We don't need this suggestion that it jumps from moment to moment, because it doesn't anyway. The Buddha doesn't suggest anything of that kind. If Kamma could jump from moment to moment, and nobody really says that, there is only suggestion that it jumps from one moment to skipping some moments to another moment, and then skipping some moments to another moment. So why would it be skipping some moments? And if it, it would be a problem anyway you say it. But as soon as it skips something, then why would it be fine to skip, let's say, 10 moments and not billions of them? What's the difference? It's skipping them. So I personally do not see any problem with us doing an action this life, for example, a donation or radiating loving kindness, and having a result after 100 lives. I don't see any problem. Why should it be continuous? Something that Buddhism rejects. We do not have continuity, in our scriptures. It doesn't exist. Everything is discrete. Everything, all of our experience, all of our life, all of us is discrete. That means it's separated into small chunks. In this case, separated into small moments. So in that case, Kamma cannot really be continuing somewhere or preserved in something. Because as soon as you'd say Kamma is preserved or continuing, you'd have to admit there is something permanent, something unchanging, something stable on which Kamma could rest. That would not be a Buddhist idea. So maybe it was with reference to this that the Buddha explained that we cannot understand it. We know that Visuddhimagga, the great guide of meditation teachers, or that's the way how I call it, the great guide of meditation teachers, is trying to show us everything that the Buddha understands. For example, 𝗀𝗂𝗶𝗸𝗲, the Buddha knows the world. So Visuddhimagga comes up and explains, yeah, the Buddha is 𝗀𝗂𝗶𝗸𝗲. It means this. And then he explains in details what is the world? How does the Buddha know the world? But aren't we supposed to not understand the Buddha and not understand the world? So how can Visuddhimagga then come with explanation of what's the world? And it harms itself by these frivolous explanations, which is the way how I call explanations that are not in accordance with the scriptures. By these frivolous explanations, Visuddhimagga is coming to the level where it tells you things that are not true, such as that the moon is, I don't remember, like 10 times less small or 5 times less small than the sun, or let's go the other way, that the sun is 5 times bigger than the moon, or that the sun is 10 times bigger than the moon. No, it's not true. So we should be very careful when we study about karma, when we study about the Buddha, when we study about the world. We are not supposed to know that. We are not supposed to understand that. We are supposed to liberate from all arising, passing moments. All right. No questions even now? I think that's it for today. It was a pleasure to see you. Well, I didn't see you, but to meet you. It was a pleasure to share with you some of my knowledge. I will be most happy if you disagree. See, that's the way how I learn. If you disagree, please let us know something in the comments so that we can look up whatever are the references or suggestions that you have. I like discussing, but again, if you don't have reference, it becomes a problem. So please make sure you have your reference, either to some great master or to the Pali scriptures, ideally, and we can discuss that next time. From my side, that's all for today. May you be happy, may you be healthy, and hopefully see you again next week. If you practice, if you study, then there is also a chance that you become enlightened. I wish you all that you find the Buddha's teachings interesting, that you find enthusiasm in yourself to study and practice, and that you soon attain the eternal bliss of Nibbana.
Concludes today's lecture on the workings of karma. This series is held every Wednesday at the same time, that is, 2 p.m. Coordinated Universal Time or Greenwich Mean Time. This translates to 7:30 p.m. Sri Lanka and India time. Please note your local time and join us every week. Let us take a moment to share merits with everyone now. Stay tuned for more content like the workings of karma. We are working hard to bring practical insights from Buddhism to improve your lives and the world at large. To get notified about new releases and also to help us spread the word, if you haven't already done so, please consider liking, sharing, subscribing, commenting and turning on notifications. Also, please consider watching some of our other content. We also have content in other languages too. Also, please consider subscribing to our other language channels. Hoping to see you again in our live programs.